Have you ever had an idea that you're so excited about that you just want to share? And then when you actually go and explain it to people, they don't care. I started my first business when I was 10 years old. Now, that was the first time that I started to realize the importance of pitching your ideas so that people care. Now, every Christmas, my parents, myself, my sister, and my brother, we put up Christmas lights. Not just like Christmas lights, but Christmas lights everywhere. We put them up on the house. We put them in the trees. We even put them on our boats. And being the youngest, I was always the one to go up the ladder. So, it was one cold afternoon, and I was up at the top of the ladder, and I heard a name as I was staple gunning Christmas lights to the top of the roof. Ryan! Ryan! I looked down at my neighbor, Mrs. Kawaguchi. Ryan, I have a problem, and I need your help. I'm a little busy at the moment, Mrs. Kawaguchi. I'll pay you. Be right down. I talked with her, and her problem was that she couldn't go up the ladder anymore. She couldn't put up the Christmas lights that she wanted, and she needed help with that. I could help, and I did, and that is when my Christmas light hanging business started, on accident. So I took the money that I made, and I invested it instead of spending it. I invented the calculator stand, so that you could calculate with just one hand. I invented booties that were made out of wetsuit material, so that you could walk directly into the pool without taking your shoes off. And, best of all, a bookmark that not only told you the page, but gave you the exact location of the word that you left off on. No more wasted reading. Now, I got really excited about these ideas. I thought they were brilliant. But my dad reminded me, it's not about ideas. It's about making ideas happen. So I took action, and that summer I went door to door, trying to sell my calculator stand, my water booties, and my bookmark. But guess what? Nobody cared. No one was interested, and in fact, they would actually just like listen, and then they'd pat me on the head out of the doorway, and I would try the next. So, needless to say, as a 10-year-old entrepreneur, that was rough. Flash forward 20 years, and I went from being an inventor to being a startup founder on a company that developed this thing called a smartphone application. Yes, we were going to make $1 million like everybody else. And my job was to go to these networking events and share how awesome this app was, so everybody downloaded it, so we would make millions of dollars like everybody else. But nobody cared about our app. That was really rough. And then, for some reason, Mrs. Kawaguchi just sort of came into my mind. Her and those Christmas lights. And I could hear her voice. Ryan, I have a problem. So I went to that networking event, and of course you meet somebody, and then they come up to you and they ask you, so what is it that you do? And normally I would just jump right into my pitch. But this time, I didn't. I did something totally different, something I'd never heard myself say before. I said, you know what? It's actually not really what I do that's important. It's the problem that I solve. And all of a sudden, he seemed genuinely interested. And then he said, well, what's the problem? And I told him the problem. And then he said, well, I have that problem. And I said, well, I can solve that problem for you. And I showed him the app. And then he downloaded it. And it was just like Mrs. Kawaguchi all over again. See, I figured out that people didn't care about what I did. They only cared about the problem that I solved. And they actually really cared about it if it was a problem that they had. So a few years later, I was working at a university with student entrepreneurs. And I had a chance of interfacing with all these students, and I got to hear thousands of ideas. Thousands of amazing ideas. But what I found out, they had the same problem that I did. They were pitching. Nobody cared. So this is a serious problem. I thought, how can I solve this? So I started to do some research, and I started to think and talk with people and find what are the core elements to that perfect pitch. Not just for a startup idea, but for somebody who's an executive in the board meeting of a large corporation, or a sales agent as they're working somebody through a sales call and onboarding that client. What I found is that there's 3 core elements. The problem, the solution, and the market. I know what you're thinking. You're thinking, Ryan, this is not new news. There's nothing special because textbooks and professors have been talking about this for 25 years. And you're right. But here's the thing. If this is what's being taught, and this is what people are supposedly using, and this is what they're doing to put their pitches together, why does nobody care what they do? I found that you take these elements and you tweak it just a little bit, and it actually works. So let's uncover and explore this, and let's first start with the problem. The problem. Is anybody ever here, I want to see you raise your hands, how many people here have actually had a legitimate paper cut? Raise your hand. Everybody, right? What happens with that? You have the paper, you have the finger, accident, stings a little bit, right? You look at it, is it bleeding? No? Okay. Then you're back to normal, right? Well, what if instead of that paper cut, you actually cut your finger off, and all of a sudden, finger chop, chop, oh my God, look, my finger's chopped off. Would you guys be relaxed right now? If my finger got chopped off on stage, no, somebody would be calling 911. Somebody would actually be saying, get this guy to the hospital, get that ginger finger, put it back on ice, right? Connect this. Sorry. Entrepreneurs and consultants and people who are trying to sell their ideas, they describe the problem that they're solving like it's a paper cut. No big deal. When you position the problem that you solve like it's a paper cut, it's like a nuisance, maybe a minor pain. But if you describe the problem that you solve like a finger chop, it's a lot more interesting. And why? It's human nature. If somebody has a severe problem, they want to know what the solution is. If you have friends or family or loved one that has a serious problem, you want to know what it is so that you can help them out. The same thing goes when you're describing your problem. If you can describe your problem in a way that elicits this reaction, people will want to know about your solution. Now let's talk about the solution, right? Your big idea, or small idea, whatever it may be. The fact of the matter is that when you are communicating your solution, it's pretty straightforward, right? But then why does everybody mess it up? It's because you talk too much. That's it. You talk too much. Let me give you an example of how I've made this mistake. So when I was at these networking events, talking with people about my app, they would ask me what my solution is. And I would just jump into how it works. I say, oh my gosh, let me tell you how it works. We use cold fusion, GPS satellite technology, accelerometers, and battery auxiliary power accelerators. And then all of a sudden I'd see their eyes glaze, and then I sort of lose them, and then they move on. But they didn't ask me how it worked. They asked me what it was. I was answering the wrong question. They asked what, and I answered how. But they didn't want to know how. People aren't interested in how your solution works until they know what your solution is. The more you talk, the less people listen. And the less you talk, the more people will ask questions. And guess what? As soon as the person that you're pitching asks you a question, you're no longer pitching. You're having a conversation. Questions lead to conversations. And conversations is what creates connection, and that connection is what creates curiosity. So the next time somebody asks you what you do, tell them what you do, and then shut your mouth. And wait for it. Might be a little awkward, but I guarantee you that if they're interested at all about your idea, the next question out of their mouth is going to be, how does that work? Magic. Now let's talk about the market, the third and final component to this concept of getting people to care about what you do. If you've ever known somebody who's passionate about an idea, you know that they get excited, right? They get excited, but sometimes that works against them. And we've all heard it. When you use a word that undermines your entire pitch. Profanity. Bad language. Swear words. Like the A word. Or the E word. You know, anyone? Everyone? When your big idea is for anyone or everyone, it is for no one. Let me give you an example here. I have in my hand a pair of size 16 ladies' ice skates. Brand new, perfect condition. Okay? Who wants them? How about you, sir? Ma'am? You? Anyone? Everyone? I have more in the back. Seriously. See, it depends, right? Because if you happen to be a lady with size 16 feet, and you were in an ice rink, and you wanted to go ice skating, and you didn't have ice skates, these would come in very handy, wouldn't they? The idea is understanding the power of the target market. The target market. This is the specific person in the specific place who has the specific problem that you solve. When you know your target market, you can actually target them. What does that look like? Well, it looks like, say for me, my target market would be an executive, a CEO, somebody who's in New York or Los Angeles, and somebody who actually has the problem that I solve. They're an expert, but nobody outside of their company knows. And here's the other thing. With your target market, right, you're creating a situation where it's not for everyone. I say not for everyone. When I'm talking with somebody, even if they look like my target market, smell like my target market, you know what I still do? I still say, well, you know what? Sounds good, but this actually might not be the best for you. I'm not sure if this is really right for you. Because the best way to get somebody interested in something is to tell them that it's not for them or that they can't have it. The classic takeaway. Now these three elements, the problem, the solution, and the market, you're already well aware of them. But they hold the key to getting people to actually care about what you do, with some minor tweaks. The actual problem needs to be described like it's a finger that's been chopped off. Finger chop. Your solution is what, and then wait for the how. Your market needs to be not for everyone. Now with these three elements, I'm able to get people to care about what I do. And it's not just me. I've been able to share this with the student entrepreneurs. I've been able to share this with the executives and consultants. I've been around the world at conferences from the United States to Portugal and to Haiti and to China. And when they use this methodology, this formula, first stating the problem, then saying that they solve it, and finally not forgetting about the market, they actually get people to care about what they're doing too. Now, I wish I could take credit for all this, but I can't. I've got to give credit to Mrs. Kawaguchi. She started it, right? She had a problem. I had a simple solution, and that's why it worked. So, if you have an idea that you want the world to hear, you have to learn to communicate it in a way that's clear. Now, this could be a big idea, or it could be small. It could be for profit, or not at all. And I want you to think about your big idea. And if you don't have an idea, I want you to think about a problem that you think is worth solving. When I ask you what you do, whether it's in a board meeting, whether it's in public, whether it's in a networking meeting, are you just going to babble on like a rambling fool? Are you going to talk so fast that you actually get red in the face? Is your big idea really just actually all over the place? Do you say the same thing every time? Are you boring your investors completely out of their mind? You might even do it, and you might not even know it. You might have a startup that hasn't started, but all you want to do is grow it. And sir, every time you open up your mouth, you might just blow it. Would it be nice if there was a method or a way that you could control it? Well, have no fear, because the answer's here, and it will make your message clear. First, you state the problem. Then you say you solve it. And don't forget the market. First rule is I don't care what you do. You see, I am selfish and so are you. You won't get me interested in explaining minor pain. You gotta solve a problem in a finger-chopped way. Rule number 2, you talk too much like a little giddy kid on a yellow school bus. Start with the what, not with the how. Make it conversational and learn to shut your mouth. Rule number 3, create intrigue. Talk about your target market to the nth degree. Tap into the FOMO of the person who is listening. Say anyone or everyone and you will be less interesting. The goal of your pitch is for them to want more. Don't miss opportunity knocking at your door. Calculator, stand, water, booties, or a market, no matter what your big idea, now you know where to